There's an advantage to being last the first time, but there's also a disadvantage in that you'll be first the second time. My first question, I did a little bit of research on the weekend, and then I checked all of your websites, those of you who have websites, up Facebook pages, today just before I came to this event. 3 of you actually have the words affordable housing someplace on your website or on your Facebook page. Only one of you has a bit of a fleshing out of what you would do to make more of it available, of what you think the issues are. And so we're very tight for time. I'm going to give you a 2-minute question to tell us in a moment with the next question what you would do as mayor. But my first question, starting with Mr. Stewart, is, do you agree that there's an affordable housing crisis in Calgary?
You want a simple yes or no, Kirk?
You can take as much time with that as you want.
There's no question there's an affordable housing. My answer is yes, unqualified yes. We do not have enough units of affordable housing to accommodate the close to 4,000 people that exist in our city who have no homes. And that takes all sorts of forms, including those facilities that provide services for the mentally ill and for the addicted.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart. Mr. Nenshi.
No question. This is an incredibly important issue. It's why my very first policy announcement of this campaign was in fact a policy on secondary suites, which is the plank for moving forward on affordable housing issues. The problem is that we've just not been serious about this. We've tinkered at the margins of this council for far too long. With this mindset that the only way to create affordable housing is for the Calgary Housing Company to build, buy, own, and operate suites for people. And we've got to look at alternative models. So secondary suites is certainly an important part of it. Inclusionary zoning is probably the most important part of it, ensuring that every neighborhood has affordable housing. I'll talk more about these issues. I know you have another question. But clearly we've got to get serious about it. We've got to realize that this is not a problem that's just going to go away by tinkering at the edges.
Thank you, Mr. Nenshi. Mr. McIver.
Yes, of course, affordable housing is a very serious problem in the city, which is why I've spent a good part, or put a part of my elected career doing the work as part of the housing company, and why I've taken issues to council like the secondary suites policy. And we can't finish there. We have to look at creative solutions. For example, do you know that today, as you heard, there's about 4,000 people on the waiting list for the housing company, but you also know, according to some real estate people, there's could be a similar number of condos that are empty today. Can we match those up? I don't know. Should we be asking the question? Absolutely. We need to look where the opportunities are. And we need to make sure that when we spend money, we're spending it wisely. I have to say, the whole idea of giving people $25,000 to set up a business called a secondary suite in their home is one that I think that money can be spent on homelessness in much more constructive ways. And I intend to work to make that happen.
Thank you, Mr. McIver. Mr. Lord.
I think it's tragic, the opportunity that has been lost here to create affordable housing over the past number of years. All it would have taken is a stroke of a pen to legalize basement suites in Calgary. When I was fighting hard to get them legalized, and I was looking at new subdivisions that have been built since then that could have been built with inclusionary zoning, I just think it's a big shame, and it has impoverished a lot of young people in our city that didn't need to be impoverished trying to pay for housing. The problem was that the city gets to say where they are built, and the province got to say how they were built. So when I was at the province, we got the how they could be built under the building codes covered off, and virtually every municipality in Alberta has now made them legal under the where, except for Calgary. So my job is not finished here, so I have to run for mayor to fix that. The reality is that we could certainly deal with many of the issues and neighborhood complaints by legalizing basement suites. We could have covered off all the concerns. We could have created these units in all new subdivisions. We could have done a lot to address affordable housing. And there's other solutions besides that we could and should have addressed over the past many years.
Thank you, Mr. Lord.
Thank you.
Mr. Johnson.
Well, folks, I do believe there's a housing problem. There's a housing problem all over the world. And to deal with them, we should go and find out what is working in other places. Get together as human beings and care about those who don't have. It's a big problem, and to address it, it takes a lot of people to work together. Like I said to these gentlemen up here at the table, one of us is going to be the winner here. The rest of us are not losers. We're people who believe in what we believe in. Standing up for what you believe in is what life's about. And I'm not here to give you lectures. I'm 63. I've been around a little bit. I've been in places where you want to see poverty, come on along. You won't like it. And I hope that whoever wins this race follows through with what they're saying today, because what you say today will be remembered. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Johnston. Mr. Hughes.
I certainly agree with Gary as far as looking at best practices. I think if there was a mayor's forum in just about any municipality in North America, this question would be probably on the table. And so by consolidating information and ideas, I think that we can help solve this problem, or at least move towards a solution, but becoming serious on the solutions. We often talk about infrastructure, building highways and roads and bridges. And I think that we should start looking at people infrastructure, human infrastructure, and what makes our city a better city for everybody. And sure, we're the eco-city, #1 eco-city, and great on certain categories, but we're not a great city there. We're a good city. But when we're the top in every category, then we're a great city. And affordable housing has to be a priority. And obviously, everybody at this table is agreeing on some type of solutions that we have to work together. So really working together for people that have a difficulty and are challenged by working with other people, I think that's where the solution is going to, therein lies the solution. So
thank you, Mr. Hughes.
Thank you.
Mr. Hawkins.
Thank you very much. Yes, we do have an affordable housing crisis in our community of many dimensions. It's a safe affordable housing crisis too. So not only are we worried about the illegal basement suites, they have to be safe. I mean, we lost 3 people in a fire in the illegal basement suite. And part of the reason for our pilot project is not only to legalize them, but to help people make the investments and resources to ensure that they're safe for people to live in. The City of Calgary has approved the creation of 1,600 units of affordable housing in 2006 to 2009. We've authorized the building of 3,000 units in 2009 and committed $19 million in contributions. By the way, I'm probably the only candidate up here that has consistently voted for the budgets that made these projects happen. And that's something that we need to also keep in mind, that it's one thing to push for policy, but to actually implement these changes on the ground requires people who step up and work for the country to make them happen.
Thank you, Mr. Hawksworth. Mr. Conley.
Thank you, Kurt. Yes, we have a crisis here in Calgary, more so than other cities our size. Let me tell you why. Market research will tell you that you get about 300 homeless individuals for every 100,000 population. So in a place like Calgary, that works out to about 3,300 people. But it's more acute in Calgary, let me tell you why. Just as Canada stands out as a beacon of hope on the world stage, Calgary stands out within Canada as a beacon of hope. So we have lots of people coming here to fulfill their dreams. But the cause of homelessness is those unforeseen financial crises, be it medical emergency or a car accident or a death. And that's the problem here in Calgary. People come here because of our roller coaster economy, people lose their jobs. And so while the average would be 3,300, I would tell you that we're probably a lot closer to 5,000. And the next question, I think I'll be able to expand on what the solution is.
Thank you, Mr. Conley. Mr. Hare.
To say nothing about the 30-year-olds living in basements and people who are homeless on the street, we do have an affordability problem here in Calgary. 19% of those people with homes are in seriously jeopardy of losing their homes. 37% of renters are in close to being homeless. But 3 of the things I would also implement as mayor, yes, we have to legalize secondary suites throughout the city and make that going ahead right now. Second thing, we do need inclusionary zoning. The city needs to be able to plan our neighborhoods and go ahead and develop them with places for, of all affordability gaps, to be able to take part in our city. Third thing, we have to get the private sector involved in building some apartment stock in this city. We haven't had apartment stock built in this city since the 70s, early 80s. If we get some of that apartment stock out there, it's going to create that opportunity for people to take part in it, as well as lower the supply-demand curve in this city.
Thank you, Mr. Hare.